People often say New York is the city that never sleeps. But what kept it awake all night wasn't the neon lights or the all-night parties, but rather the never-ending dark corners where despair, sin, and social issues take turns dominating every street. When night falls, New York is no longer the city of dreams people once longed for. Behind the blinding lights of Times Square and glamorous events are dark corners where social values are slowly eroding, and abandoned souls fight to survive. From narrow alleys in Manhattan to the desolate stretches of the Bronx, these are places even the police hesitate to enter because the danger is too great, too complicated. In today's video, we're taking you deep into the heart of New York after dark, where silent pain and harsh realities come into full view. Get ready, because what you're about to witness may stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Three years have passed since the COVID-19 pandemic, but in New York City, the glamorous heart of America, another disease still silently ravages the lives of thousands of residents. This disease is not a virus, has no obvious symptoms, yet it permeates every street corner, every flight of stairs, and might even be right outside your front door. That is the homelessness epidemic. In recent years, homelessness in New York has reached its highest level since the Great Depression of the 1930s. In May 2025, 875 people had to sleep overnight in temporary shelters in this city. There are no official figures for the number of homeless people on the streets sleeping in public spaces because Hope's annual estimates are highly inaccurate. But the number is certainly in the thousands. More than 200,000 people had to take temporary shelter in other people's homes. With these figures, it can be estimated that over 350,000 people will have lost their homes in New York by May 2025. This is not a work of fiction, but a brutal reality unfolding in a city that was once a symbol of prosperity and opportunity. Homelessness is not airborne, cannot be detected through testing, yet it devastates thousands of lives. It doesn't discriminate by gender, race, or class, and particularly the most vulnerable, from the elderly, children, and poor workers to even the middle class, can be affected. A slight misstep, losing a job, a sudden illness, or simply a rent increase is enough to push them out of the home they once considered their safest haven. One of the reasons this pandemic reached its peak is that rental prices have become unaffordable for the majority of middle-income earners. A one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan can cost up to $5,000 per month, a staggering figure for workers. Even in more distant areas like Brooklyn or Queens, rental prices continue to skyrocket, making it impossible for many people to find affordable housing. People have to spend up to 50–60% of their income just to pay rent, double the government's recommended spending level. Meanwhile, temporary shelters, which were initially expected to be an emergency solution, are struggling with overcrowding, severe deterioration, and a lack of safety. Social organizations, volunteers, and philanthropists are doing their best, but the lack of resources and the rapid increase in homelessness are overwhelming the system's capacity. Why is everything like this? How can a city that was once a symbol of prosperity and opportunity allow hundreds of thousands of people to be homeless, while the streets are still full of neon lights and luxury restaurants? Don't take your eyes off this video, because what you just saw is only the tip of a submerged iceberg. Behind the homeless pandemic lies a more brutal truth, hidden in the shadows waiting for you to discover. There's a street in the heart of New York where the city lights aren't enough to dispel the dark shadows that still silently linger. Roosevelt Avenue. It might seem like just a bustling avenue in Queens, but it's actually a lawless zone where even the police think twice before setting foot. This is a place where illegal activities not only take place openly, but also seem to be an integral part of daily life. To address this situation, the NYPD launched a major 60-day operation called Operation Roosevelt, aimed at tackling pressing issues such as illegal vending, unregistered vehicles, and unsanitary environmental conditions. However, it's noteworthy that even with this strong campaign, Roosevelt Avenue didn't completely escape the shadow of uncertainty. Every morning, hundreds of personnel from the NYPD, state police, fire department, and other agencies simultaneously deployed, focusing on restoring order to the area. However, sadly, the situation has been out of control for many years, with vices persisting under the indifferent eyes of both the authorities and the residents. Illegal activities are now integrated into daily life, from stalls selling counterfeit goods overflowing onto the sidewalks, to unregistered scooters being chased through the streets. Stepping onto Roosevelt Avenue, you won't find it difficult to spot piles of garbage stacked along the streets, and even rats parading around, creating a dirty and suffocating environment. These images not only cause pollution, but also seriously affect the quality of life for local residents, especially families with young children and schools located right near the area. The crime situation becomes even more alarming when shady services openly take place under the disguise of care or special massage services. Local residents, especially those with young children, are constantly exposed to filthy and disturbing scenes right on the sidewalks, making it impossible not to worry about their family's safety. People in these neighborhoods live in constant fear, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, scammers, and criminal gangs that never seem to stop operating. Some residents have even spoken out to warn about the increasing signs of people being treated like commodities right in the heart of the city, with no one able to do anything to stop it. In just the past year, stores have been repeatedly robbed, with some small business owners experiencing up to 7 thefts in a single year. This is clear evidence of the absence of order and justice in this region. Hiram Montserrat, founder of the organization Let's Improve Roosevelt Avenue, has proposed a 5-point plan to end the rising crime in the area. Part of this calls for the city to deploy an additional 100 police officers, evenly distributed to the heavily affected areas. However, despite the strong implementation of Operation Roosevelt, it was only the first step in a long-term battle to revitalize an area that was once a bustling commercial center. The cracks in the social fabric of Roosevelt Avenue remain, prompting local businesses and communities to call for even faster and stronger intervention. Roosevelt Avenue is not just a street, it is a symbol of areas struggling with the erosion of social order. Can the city restore peace to this neighborhood? Or will Roosevelt Avenue forever be an example of urban decay in the heart of New York City? Manhattan, once a glorious symbol of America, is now slowly revealing deep cracks, where bustling neighborhoods have turned into forbidden streets. Once upon a time, people dreamed of Manhattan as a dazzling paradise of lights, where every street corner represented the American dream. But as we enter 2025, the shadow of a once glamorous city remains only in memory. Skyscrapers are no longer the sole symbols of success and prosperity. Alongside them, impoverished areas and dilapidated tents have become an integral part of the urban landscape. What was once the commercial and cultural center of the world is now filled with areas where people must duck to pass through, avoiding the gaze of the homeless struggling under makeshift tarps. The Midtown, Hell's Kitchen, and Lower Manhattan areas are facing an unprecedented situation, where even the city government, with all the intervention of the police force, cannot extinguish the growing presence of criminal activity and homelessness. Today's Manhattan is a place where workers, those who serve in luxury restaurants, stores, and elegant buildings, can no longer find a roof over their heads in the heart of the city where they work. A typical apartment here is so expensive that ordinary workers cannot afford it. The rent for a one-bedroom apartment in central areas can reach $5,000 per month. making it unaffordable for many, even those who work hard, to have a place to live. If those who have given their all to society cannot find a home, is there still room in this society for the vulnerable amidst the glittering lights, expensive suits, and passing crowds? The image of nameless, addressless, and futureless individuals becomes clearer than ever. These people, whether they were veterans, construction workers, or salespeople, they are an integral part of society. But now they are struggling to find a small corner to live in. The makeshift tents and sprawling slums, giving way to the dazzling light of financial towers, create a heartbreaking paradox where wealth and prosperity persist, yet cannot protect the most vulnerable members of society. The city government has tried to cope by clearing temporary shelters and homeless areas, but it has been unable to address the root causes of the problem. Temporary shelters are overcrowded, and despite new solutions like the safe haven model, a safe haven for the homeless, the number of beds available is far too few compared to the actual need. Homeless advocacy organizations have spoken out against these measures, arguing that clearing the areas only deprives the homeless of their only temporary shelter, while the real solutions are insufficient to improve the situation. Manhattan, with all its glitz and glamour, now resembles a post-war stage brightly lit, but lacking in souls. If a city like New York, with all its wealth and opportunity, cannot protect its most vulnerable people, what hope is there for future generations? Does the American dream truly exist if ordinary workers, who contributed to building this city, cannot find housing in the very city they built? Amidst the dazzling streets of New York, where the light from skyscrapers casts shadows into the night, a silent battle is being waged, a battle that very few can see. It was a war between the police, criminal gangs, and secret compromises that were never revealed, while the upper class relentlessly built their financial empires. The open confrontations between criminal and law enforcement forces became a part of everyday reality that people could not ignore. In poor areas where crime can run rampant openly, the police are sometimes the ones who are sidelined. Clashes between gangs and security forces are not only taking place on quiet streets, but also in residential areas, where residents no longer feel safe. Nevertheless, the secret agreements between gangs and some law enforcement agencies are something very few people are aware of, while struggling to maintain order. The government and police also face constant tension between justice and dark compromises. This not only affects the quality of life for the people, but also exposes them to constant potential dangers. This situation erodes trust in the legal system. Police in these areas not only have to fight crime, but also battle a lack of resources and fatigue in the face of covert compromises, where justice seems like a distant concept. Meanwhile, brands like T-Mobile have consistently stepped up to support communities, offering information and security protection programs for low-income neighborhoods, reminding us of the important role technology plays in maintaining order and supporting society. These harsh realities have led communities to inevitably ask, could secret agreements between the police and gangs be the cause of this insecurity? Can we solve the problem at its root? Or are we just beautifying the surface? While brands like Apple continue to play a significant role in providing advanced technologies that enhance safety, we must also confront a major question when justice is set back. Will there still be a truly safe New York City for everyone? By combining the security technology programs of leading brands, we can help reverse this trend and bring true peace back to impoverished areas struggling with rising crime. But will that be enough to change the current reality? We always hear about the American dream, the dream of a stable home where every individual has the opportunity to work, succeed, and own their own house. However, in New York, often called the center of prosperity and opportunity. This dream is becoming increasingly distant for many residents, especially as the affordable housing crisis becomes a pressing issue. Rental prices in New York have now reached a level that most middle-income residents cannot afford. A one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan can cost up to $5,000 per month. And even in more distant areas like Brooklyn or Queens, rental prices continue to rise. This is an excessively high price compared to the income of most ordinary workers. Given the average income of New Yorkers, many people have to spend over 50–60% of their earnings just to have a roof over their heads. This not only makes saving nearly impossible, but also pushes thousands closer to the brink of homelessness. What's even more frightening is that the affordable housing crisis isn't just a financial problem, but also a numbers problem. Numbers that the government and social organizations can't solve, despite supportive policies such as providing affordable housing projects. These figures do not adequately meet the needs of the residents. Furthermore, affordable housing projects are not currently being built at the necessary pace to keep up with population growth and the demand for housing. In 2025, data from social organizations show that over 350,000 New Yorkers are without stable housing, and a significant portion of them are workers who cannot find housing suitable for their income levels. Meanwhile, many buildings remain abandoned, in the hands of investors who are only waiting for prices to rise before selling or renting them to maximize profits. These cold numbers, house price growth rates, the percentage of income spent on rent, have become the culprits of the crisis. Brands like Tesla, with their sustainable community development initiatives, have created cost-effective housing models. But can we develop quickly enough to keep up with the growing demand? Can the government and organizations find a long-term and effective solution? Or will we continue to see those numbers become impersonal statistics, pushing thousands into social marginalization? The affordable housing crisis is an urgent issue, not only in New York, but also in many major cities across the United States. The shortage of affordable housing is becoming one of the greatest challenges of modern society. And only when we change our approach and invest in real solutions can the American dream be revived and bring hope to everyone. New York, a city that never sleeps, is now facing an urban crisis that seems unsolvable. Once a symbol of opportunity and prosperity, it now faces images of deepening polarization. The streets that were once the pride of the city are now crime-ridden and chaotic areas, where the light of skyscrapers cannot dispel the darkness of poverty and homelessness. The city government, despite its attempts to implement some solutions, has in reality only made the problem worse. While urban development projects like the construction of high-end apartment complexes continue to spring up, older areas still don't receive the necessary investment. Many buildings, instead of becoming stable living spaces, are abandoned, creating islands within the city where the poor cannot find a place. The government has implemented measures to boycott slums, but instead of fundamentally addressing the issue, these efforts have only pushed people to other areas with no long-term housing. In reality, while the city is constantly growing with new neighborhoods springing up like mushrooms, the authorities lack a comprehensive strategy to address basic issues such as housing, employment, and social welfare. Temporary support centers are unable to meet the number of people needing assistance, and those displaced from difficult areas cannot find long-term solutions. This creates a vicious cycle where poor workers, once the backbone of the economy, now have no place in the very city they dedicated their lives to. So, if these streets continue to become no man's land, where workers can't survive, are we witnessing the collapse of a dream? Can New York City, once a beacon of hope and opportunity, reclaim its lost values? When looking at the difficulties New York is facing, many people feel worried about the city's future. A place that was once a symbol of hope, opportunity, and prosperity is now grappling with rising homelessness, social division, and the gradual withdrawal of government. But the big question remains, can New York's future be salvaged? Or will the city continue to sink deeper into the darkness of decay with the staggering data on homelessness and housing shortages? It's not hard to see that current solutions are insufficient to address the root causes of the problem. However, there are still glimmers of hope emerging in community initiatives and innovation efforts. Non-profit organizations and volunteer groups are working tirelessly to provide essential services and support in finding housing and employment for the homeless. Affordable housing models, though still too few, also show the right direction if they are replicated. To truly change the situation, New York needs a comprehensive and long-term strategy. Strong cooperation is needed between the government, businesses, and the community to build sustainable infrastructure, with reasonable housing policies and access to resources for everyone. For example, investing in neglected areas and repurposing abandoned buildings into affordable housing can help address the shortage of housing for residents. Major brands like Google and Amazon have made significant contributions to the development of social welfare technology and can play a crucial role in creating platforms that help people find housing and employment. But besides that, real change requires community awareness and the active participation of everyone. Every individual, every family, and every organization can contribute to creating a more equitable New York where no one is left behind. Values such as solidarity, compassion, and empathy must be reborn and maintained on every street, in every neighborhood, and in the heart of every citizen. Do we have the courage to face this truth, to acknowledge injustices, and to act not only for the present, but also for the future of the next generations? Can New York, with all its glamour and history, rediscover the light of a city where everyone has the opportunity to live, to grow, and to dream? The answer doesn't lie in the hands of a few individuals or organizations, but within each of us, in how we perceive and act to save this city before it's too late. Looking at the current state of America, we cannot help but feel a growing sense of unease, not just in major cities, but in every corner of society. Challenges such as homelessness, wealth disparity, and declining quality of life are becoming intractable problems that cannot be solved overnight. But can we dream of a better future where everyone, regardless of their circumstances, has the opportunity to succeed and thrive? The future of America is not a distant dream. It starts with small decisions, with changes in policies and approaches to fundamental social issues. A sustainable future cannot be built if we do not face the reality that the current housing, education, healthcare, and social security systems are riddled with too many flaws, leaving millions struggling to make ends meet. In fact, a large portion of the population is facing the failure of the system. Housing prices are skyrocketing, especially in major cities like New York and Los Angeles, making it impossible for many families to afford homes that are suitable for their income. Many workers, despite working hard, still cannot escape the vicious cycle of poverty and deprivation. Meanwhile, the government still lacks fundamental solutions to address the root causes of homelessness or the growing social divide. The future of America is not just in the hands of one individual or organization, but is a collective effort of the entire society. We can choose to stand still and wait, or decide to take action and make a change. The American dream can still come true if we persevere and put in our best effort to rebuild the core values that have made this country prosperous for centuries. New York City was once a symbol of the American dream, where everyone could hope for a bright future, but facing ever-increasing challenges. The question is, can we salvage the future of this city? Can New York return to being a place where everyone has the opportunity to live and thrive? Or will it continue to sink into division and injustice? We can stand still, or we can decide to take action to create change. But where will that change begin? Are you ready to face these realities and find solutions? Or will you just sit and watch the city you love slowly lose its light? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think about the future of New York and other major cities in the United States? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the next stories. Thank you for watching and see you in the upcoming videos. This video was created for educational purposes, social analysis, and to encourage a multifaceted perspective. All content, images, and data are compiled from publicly available news sources, research, and reports. The descriptions and narration in the video are not intended to be generalizing, judgmental, or representative of any individual, organization, or government agency. We do not condone negative behavior, draw political conclusions, or substitute for legal, medical, or social advice. The video aims to create a space for discussion, encourage understanding, and connect the community through real-world issues. If there are any errors or information that needs clarification, please leave your comments below. We always respect the truth and are committed to improving content responsibly.